This hour of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by my good friends at Advantage Gold. Advantage Gold is a 5-star rated gold company with one-of-a-kind customer service. And when it comes to gold and precious metals, Advantage Gold is the only company I'll work with. Call Advantage Gold today and make sure you let them know that Mark Levin sent you. And now, let's begin.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Let me get this out of the way. It was a great football game last night. I found myself rooting for the 49ers, but knowing that Mahomes would probably come through. And when the 49ers had a great first quarter and they didn't score a point in the first quarter, I don't think, Mr. Producer, did they? I said, uh-oh. This is going to be a problem. You can play all the great football you want, but if you're not scoring, you're not scoring because this guy Mahomes is a killer at the end of the game. It just is. But two things that were a complete turnoff to me. I'm not ESPN. I'm not a host on ESPN. And I'm sick and tired of this Taylor Swift, Kelce crap. I really am. People reading their lips. Did you see that one, Mr. Producer? What did they say to each other? I could care less. And then the camera showed her, what, half a dozen times jumping up and down with her groupies? I mean, what was that all about? This isn't an attack on Taylor Swift. There's just a place for these things. Mark, you're getting so old. No, I'd feel the same way if I were 22. It doesn't matter. It's weird. The NFL is promoting it. CBS is promoting it. They're doing it for hits. They're doing it for numbers. ESPN is promoting it. Same reason. They want the audience. Fox Sports, all the sports, same damn thing. Now, that wasn't even what bothered me the most. Well, this guy Kelce, who's a big brute, he is a big, strong athlete, ran up to his coach, Andy Reid, who was the coach prior to this, to the Eagles, and I'm fond of this guy. By all accounts, he's a player's coach, he's a good man, he's soft-spoken. He lost his son a couple decades ago to drug overdoses. Ran up to him, I mean, I'm watching it, we're all watching it, and didn't hit him hard, but still got in his coach's face, shocked his coach, slightly banged him. The coach almost fell down. Obviously, he's an older guy. Obviously, he's way overweight and is screaming at him. I said, you know what? You're a punk. I mean, look, I'm an Eagles guy. We had a horrible season. So this isn't about one team or the other. It's about how you treat your coach. He's a punk. That's what he is. And I don't care the reasons for it. He wanted to go out there. He wanted to make sure that they got the fumble. I could care less. Football's a team sport. Maybe you're not going to be in every single play. I mean, you're in 99% of them. Did you see that, Mr. Producer? Wasn't that a real turnoff? It was just repulsive. And you could see how Reid was shocked. He dropped his clipboard or whatever it was. He almost fell down. I mean, what is that? He's the general. He has to control both sides of the ball. He's got to watch the clock. He's got to call the plays. He's got to see how his guys call the plays. He's got to see who's injured. Comes in. You run up there. Your sorry ass up there like you're the only one on the field. The guy's a punk. That's what turned me off. And by the way, my wife and our two friends. It's like, what was that? What was that? I mean, the guy's ego's massive now. You know, he does the vaccine commercials. He's on like every other commercial. Doesn't matter what he's pushing. Food, insurance, vaccines, hemorrhoid ointment. I don't know what the hell he's pushing. He's pushing everything. So his ego's massive. They say he's not a very nice guy. That's what they say. I don't know. I don't care. He could be the worst guy on the face there. There have been great baseball players who are nasty guys. That's fine. What do I care? But that's not the point. There's 130, 140 million people watching, and you run up to your coach, an older guy who's way overweight, who has brought this team to where it is. He made the decisions on the drafts. He's got control of the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's bringing them the kind of stardom, the kind of legacy that very few other coaches can do. But he's got the great players. I don't care how many great players you have. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles. It's the coach in the end who has to do it. Shanahan coached a great game. He can't run on the field and score for his team. But I know about this man, too. He's another very gentle, decent man like his father. He's an offensive coordinator turned coach. He's a brilliant offensive coordinator. The game was very close. It couldn't have been more exciting, quite frankly. And, when it's a game that close and you lose, it's very sad if you're on the 49ers side and so forth. But I happen to know he's a good guy. His father's a good guy. A friend of mine said, yeah, but he's San Francisco, so I'm rooting for Casey. He's nothing to do with the mentality or the politics of San Francisco. Zero. He's not into any of that stuff. Who the hell is these days, anyway? But for me, Kelce will always be on my S list after that. Always. And I'm truly sick and tired of that whole romance thing. It's constant. It's we bought the box. You know, it was $1.4 million. Meanwhile, I see Purdy's family. They're down there with everybody else. You know, among the fans, Mr. Producer. Again, I don't mind. I'm sure LeBron, they showed a picture of LeBron. I'm sure he's up there in one of those special boxes, you know. Who cares? But at least have enough respect. And they don't. And I'm going to tell you another secret. There's a ton of fans of Taylor Swift. This has nothing to do with it. This is football. I'm not saying there shouldn't be fun things and unusual. I thought Usher was great, by the way. But I'm a big Usher fan. Not his politics suck. I mean, most singers, their politics suck. Most of them are leftists. He's a leftist. But he's entertaining as hell to me. And I'm sitting there. I said, what the hell? That's ludicrous. And everyone's looking. How do you know that's ludicrous? How do you not know that that's ludicrous? How do you not know that that's Did you know that, Mr. Producer? Well, who wouldn't know that? Anyway, all in all, it was quite good. All in all, it was quite good. Halftime was good. Commercials, most of them were pretty good. The game was quite good. But as I say, the soap opera going on with those two, I could care less, and it's very annoying at this point. I think it is for most people. And the Kelce thing there, going after your coach, like that really turned my stomach. It really did. And I watched it a couple more times online now. And he reads shaking, he drops it, like, what the hell? You know, that's unacceptable. Absolutely unconscionable. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, by the time you finish listening to this message, the U.S. government will print $8,300 in new money. That's every minute. That's $276 new dollars every single second. Money that won't go to defending our nation or improving our roads. It's wiping away the value of your dollar and your savings. I'm Mark Levin, and I have warned Americans about this crisis. That's why I'm recommending to all my listeners, diversify in precious metals while you still can. And the only gold company I strongly support is Advantage Gold, a 5-star rated gold company. They can educate you with the real facts, including why gold may be the single best investment of this decade. Call them right now, folks. 800-900-8000. It's that simple. Tell them Mark Levin sent you, and they'll provide you with a 100% free Golden Shield Wealth Plan to show you exactly how to get started investing in gold right now. Don't wait until it's too late. That's 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000. Call them and remember to tell them you heard it from me, Mark Levin. Performance may vary, of course. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. All right. I think the Communist Chinese are interfering with the program right now. TikTok. Of course, my wife was amazing. Super Bowl. The snacks, the food. It's just fantastic. Plus, you know what she said to me before the Super Bowl, Mr. Producer? You can eat whatever you want and as much as you want. I said, holy mackerel. That was a good one. Couple of things I want to clear up here. The issue with Joe Biden is not his age. It's his dementia. I want to be very clear about this, because the media keeps saying ageism, age. But first of all, screw off, media. Everybody despises you, and for good reason. It's not about his age. He's an imbecile. That's the. I say that in the legal sense, not in a derogatory sense. He's officially an imbecile. We all see it. We all know it. There have been great leaders who've been old men. Some of them have been old women. Look at Queen Elizabeth. She wasn't, shuffling around, banging in the walls, speaking to dead former leaders. She was a class act right to the end. And how old was she when she passed away? Over 100 or something? Close to 100. So it's not age. It's Biden. Biden is an imbecile. That's the problem. That's number one. What else is out there that I need to address? Number two, Trump on his NATO comments. At face value, you listen to his NATO comments, you go, wow. He's going to abandon NATO. But he's not going to abandon NATO. Do you know why he said what he said? And maybe he shouldn't have said it. Maybe he shouldn't have said it that way. But do you know why he said it? He wants to scare these NATO countries that have been pressed and pressed and pressed over and over again to pay their fair share, their big 3%, into the NATO system, to damn well do it. Because the context of his comment was, these countries aren't paying, well, let Russia attack you. Now, obviously, he's not going to let that happen. And obviously, that would trigger the whole NATO response. But the media are not interested in trying to discern what's going on. It's just, same damn thing. Biden can call, he can call Egypt, Mexico, the president of Egypt, the president of Mexico, and his spokesidiots and the rest will say, look, he misspoke. What's the problem? But on Trump, well, my God, he's going to launch World War III. No, he's not. We had more peace breaking out under Trump than we certainly have under Biden. Now, Mark, you defend everything he says. No, I don't. But I'm explaining what I feel quite certain he meant, because just watch him over the years. He's always attacking NATO, always threatening NATO, because he wants them to pay up. If you cut through all the spin or all the way it's presented, maybe by him, the way it is spun by the media, and you think for yourself, you figure these things out. That's what I do. What else? I got a lot to get into, but I want to deal with these other issues quickly. The issue before the Supreme Court is not, as some of these legal analysts and other analysts who don't have law degrees keep saying, Trump is trying to delay the trial in Washington, D.C., which, by the way, he has every right to try to do. You're not a defendant trying to make it easy for the Hey, what do you need over there? You took attorney-client privilege. You got my lawyer's testimony. You got his notes that he took. What else do you want? Hey, we want to make this fast, Speedy Trial Act. No. I get to decide that as the defendant. No, we want a speedy trial. It's in the public interest, don't you know, to lock you up as fast as possible. With a D.C. jury, an Obama hack judge, a Biden hack prosecutor. We got all this figured out. We got a whole Potemkin courtroom built here just for you, Trump. Don't make us waste all this money. What do you mean, due process, attorney-client privilege, immunity? What the hell's wrong with you? Anyway, the reporting is disgusting. First of all, the D.C. Circuit didn't decide the issue of post-presidential immunity. A panel, a 3-judge panel did, 2 of whom were appointed by Biden, one of whom is a complete, actually both of whom, 2 of the 3, complete hacks. The other is a long-in-the-tooth Bush appointee who's just kind of doodling. Should I take senior status? I don't know. What should I do? Anyway, now typically what happens is a period of time where defendant has a right to make an appeal to the full court. Doesn't mean the full court will agree, but you have a right to make a thoughtful appeal to the full court, make your case for why you want to. It's complex. It's a case of first impression. It involves the Constitution. It could have ramifications for the rest of the Republic and so forth, and it could. You know what this panel did, Mr. Producer? Rather than allowing Donald Trump to have, say, typical 30, 45, 60 days to do that sort of thing, they ruled last Tuesday, you have until next Monday to appeal, and you're not to appeal to this full court. We're going to prevent you from doing that. You have to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. And we are directing the trial court, if your lawyers don't do what we tell them to do, to start the trial immediately. That has never happened in my knowledge. Ever. Ever. So Trump's lawyers go to the Supreme Court today and they filed and said, hey, can we get back to regular processes here? And I'll add, we know these courts want to, pin a criminal charge on me or a criminal guilt as soon as they can to interfere with the election. But I have a right to go through the same process as every other defendant in this circuit. That's the issue. They talk about him being above the law. Well, he wants to be treated as if he's within the law. Folks, by the time you finish listening to this message, the U.S. government will print $8,300 in new money. That's every minute. That's $276 new dollars every single second. Money that won't go to defending our nation or improving our roads. It's wiping away the value of your dollar and your savings. I'm Mark Levin, and I have warned Americans about this crisis. That's why I'm recommending to all my listeners, diversify in precious metals while you still can. And the only gold company I strongly support is Advantage Gold, a 5-star rated gold company. They can educate you with the real facts, including why gold may be the single best investment of this decade. Call them right now, folks. 800-900-8000. It's that simple. Tell them Mark Levin sent you, and they'll provide you with a 100% free Golden Shield Wealth Plan to show you exactly how to get started investing in gold right now. Don't wait until it's too late. That's 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000. Call them and remember to tell them you heard it from me, Mark Levin. Performance may vary, of course. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, America's tyranny hunter. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
We're going to have Mazi Pilip on the program in the third hour. You know, I've endorsed her for the special election in New York. And the issue really comes down to this, to our friends in New York in this district. Open borders versus a secure nation. The Democrat running claims to be a moderate compromiser. They all claim to be moderate compromisers, yet they always back Joe Biden. And so now you have an opportunity that most of us do not have right now, and that's to put somebody in the House of Representatives who's going to help protect this country. Because this guy, Swazi Susie, is a sleazy. He's another fraud, another phony. He's a Newsom wannabe. This Mazi Pilip is the real deal, and it's amazing to me. She's a Ethiopian heritage, a female, Jewish, hits all the bucket points, but you notice the liberals are not supporting that. They're supporting a straight white man. I'm not against straight white men. I happen to be one. But I'm talking about how they make determinations about how they're going to support different candidates and how it always changes when it comes to a Republican. The way they trashed Tim Scott, the way they trashed Clarence Thomas, the way they trash now Pilip. So I'm a strong supporter of Mazi Pilip. You folks who are voting, I hope you'll keep in mind that the Democrats are going to fall right behind Biden and Hakeem Jeffries and the other leftists who are destroying your schools, destroying your families, destroying your communities, and destroying the economy. There's no question about it. White House frustrated with Garland. It grows. The interference by Joe Biden in our criminal justice system is beyond debate. But the media says, I said it's beyond debate. As I've explained to you before, his public haranguings, like a mental patient in a padded room, are intended to influence the Democrat judges, and they have. Look at this panel in D.C. Look at the district court judges in D.C. Look at what's taken place in New York, the state attorney general. Look what's taken place in New York, the Manhattan DA. Look what's taken place in Atlanta, Fulton County. The Democrat DA, boy, what a pathetic hypocrite she's turned out to be, and we'll get to that. And so Biden has sent signals by leaking, and his staff leaking, and his lawyers, I guess, leaking to the New York Times and others about the ponderous judge rather than an aggressive prosecutor. That would be the Attorney General. And after that leak, Merrick Garland jumped into action, didn't he? And the attempt to stop Trump from being on the ballot. Biden's asked about that. He says there's no question Trump was involved in an insurrection. Joe Biden will do anything for power. This he understands, even in his current mental state, which isn't all that different from his mental state when he was first elected to the Senate, quite frankly. So here's Politico, which is one of the mouthpieces for the left. White House frustration with Garland grows. So here's another signal to the Attorney General. The president believes the special counsel investigating his handling of classified documents went beyond his remit, and part of the blame is being placed on the Attorney General. Biden told aides and outside advisors the Attorney General did not do enough to rein in a special counsel report. stating that the president had diminished mental faculties, according to two people close to him. The report from special counsel Robert Hur ultimately cleared Biden. And by the way, I hope you saw my show Saturday. It didn't clear Biden. He said he wasn't going to charge Biden. It didn't clear Biden. In fact, Biden has spent half a century violating the Espionage Act. The number of documents involved, and notes, and notebooks, locations, the number of occasions, the outright stealing from a Senate SCIF when he was a senator, the outright stealing of classified information when he was no longer even in public office as a vice president. Trump never did any of that. He was the president of the United States. He had certain constitutional authorities that a vice president, a senator, a private citizen simply do not have. Biden and his closest advisors believe Hur went well beyond his purview. Hur should have charged him and said, we'll work out this issue whether he can charge a sitting president with the Supreme Court. That's what Jack Smith would have done. Should have just charged him. Frustration within the White House at Garland has been growing steadily. You notice how they hate Netanyahu. They're turning on Garland. Why? Because they're not loyal. They're not loyal to Biden. Netanyahu has to represent his people. Garland, who's been over backwards to accommodate Biden, the Biden family, all their criminality, their money, and all the rest, but he's not good enough because they needed him to clean up that report. In recent weeks, this is how it works. President Biden has grumbled to aides and advisors. Ready for this one? That had Garland moved sooner in his investigation into former President Trump, the election interference, a trial may already be underway or even have concluded, according to two people granted anonymity to discuss private matters. Now listen to that. Did you hear that phrase, Mr. Producer? They were granted anonymity to discuss private matters. I've never heard that phrase before. In other words, these were authorized leaks, but they can't give their names. These were authorized leaks. That trial still could take place before the election, and much of the delay is owed not to Garland, but deliberate resistance put up by the former president and his team. Listen to how they're deliberate resistance. Oh, I see. He should just surrender, admit guilt, and go to prison. Who the hell wrote this? Hold on a second. I got to give this person. Jonathan Lemire and Sam Stein? Sacco and Vanzetti of journalism? If I'm advising a client, do I tell my client, look, spread eagle, surrender, be done with it? No, you resist, you fight. Because you may well be innocent. Let me read this paragraph again. This paragraph is not only amazing for what Biden is authorizing to be leaked, it's amazing to show you what journalism has become and how they hate Trump so much. In recent weeks, President Biden has grumbled to aides and advisors. What's the difference between aide and advisor? An advisor is somebody outside the government, I guess, that had Garland moved sooner in his investigation into former President Trump's election interference. And they state that as a proven fact, as election interference. So challenging an election, using every possible legal avenue to challenge an election is now election interference. Well, then, the Democrats and the DNC, they ought to have a crime tape and wrap it around the whole building. A trial may already be underway or even have concluded, according to two people granted anonymity to discuss private matters. This just further demonstrates, yet again, what the purpose of this entire process is, the timing of the process, the judges bending over backwards to cut corners as they did in the circuit last week. Biden's behind it all. I don't mean he's sitting there telling them what the strategy is. He's behind it. He's supporting it. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, down there in Georgia, if you're up here in Virginia, or over there in Florida, over there or down there in Georgia, Fulton County. Remember? The DA's lover? He had at least 2 conversations with lawyers at the White House or others, and there were 2 meetings. We still don't know what happened there. What was that all about? We don't know. Why don't we know? It's the same media that didn't want you to know about Hunter's laptop. That's why. That trial still could take place before the election, and much of the delay, yes, tell us, is owed not to Garland, but to deliberate resistance put up by the former president and his team. Deliberate resistance! Oh, my God! A spokesperson for the Department of Justice declined to comment, but one former senior justice official, anonymous of course, noted that some of the frustrations being directed at Garland are better directed toward the White House. The president's team had the option to exert executive privilege over elements of Hur's report, but declined to do so. And had Garland made edits to the report, he would have had to explain these redactions to Congress. Nowhere in here do they say that Biden is trying to interfere with a criminal investigation of himself. Did you hear that in anything I read, Mr. Producer? Beyond that, Garland felt the need to appoint a special counsel in the classified documents case, in part because the president's team bungled when the first documents were discovered. And it goes on. Let's see. What Democrats do is they bend over backwards not to look partisan, and then they end up hiring people that are partisan but in the other direction, said a Biden donor. Granted anonymity. Is anybody on the record for this article? I could write this article, Mr. Producer. Couldn't I? And this is a heavy defense of Garland because the Department of Justice, I have no doubt, leaks incessantly to Politico, New York Times, Washington Compost. But I wanted you to know this because this is constant now. These messages going out intentionally, planted by Biden, his White House, and his campaign. If Garland had acted sooner, this guy, Trump, would already be off the battlefield, the political battlefield. And so now Smith's trying to do their job for them. Federal judges are trying to do their job for them. Local DAs are trying to do their job for them. State attorneys general are trying to do their job for them because the word's gone out. I can't win this election if you don't lock that guy up or at least get him convicted of something, anything. All right, we got one. The Klan Act of 1870. Let's dust that one. Oh, we got another one. The Enron Obstruction Act. Let's dust that. Oh, we got that one. Oh, we got another one. The Federal Contractors Fraud Act. Let's use that one. What about insurrection? There is no insurrection. Shh. Don't tell anybody. What about sedition? Shh. There was no sedition. Well, what about one of the crimes under the criminal code for promoting or conspiring to create violence? Shh. He didn't do that. We don't have any evidence of that. No evidence of an insurrection, sedition, or violence? No, we don't have any. Well, what about the documents? Get them on the documents, damn it! Well, Mr. President. Yes! You violated the Espionage Act as a senator, as vice president, and a private citizen. He's president. It raises certain constitutional issues. My God, what's happened to my party? We used to be so good at this. We got Nixon. We almost got Reagan. We're the old hands who knew, they used to know how to do this. We got Mark Elias, slip and fall ambulance chasing lawyer. He's in every state now trying to change the election laws as he did in 2020. He is? Yes. He's having some success again. What else are we doing? Well, you got to stab Israel in the back, Mr. President. We're going to lose Dearborn, Michigan. We're going to lose these areas of river to the sea. We're going to lose the Arab Muslim vote, They're saying you support genocide. But I don't. I'm supporting Israel. Not supporting Israel's genocide, Mr. President. Okay, I'll do whatever I have to do. Whatever I have to do. What do you want me to do? Try to destroy Netanyahu. Try to destroy his government and his cabinet. Leak like hell. You can use Blinken or anybody else you want. call the elected Prime Minister of Israel an F, an A, send Blinken over to the Middle East, have him work with the Arab countries to try and work against Israel. Better yet, have him meet with Abbas. But he's a terrorist. Doesn't matter. He's a peaceful Palestinian. He's a moderate. Talk about a two-state solution over and over and over again. Nobody will know what you're talking about anyway. It sounds really good. But wait a minute. What will this other state look like? Will they have an army? Will they, as I've said many times, will they have missiles? Will they have an air force? Will they? Don't worry about it. Just keep saying two-state solution over and over again. Oh, and we have a better one. What's that? Bring the monarchy, the dictator of Jordan in, the inbred, who was handed a country from his daddy, who was handed a country by the British. Didn't even exist. Okay, what do we do then? Give them a script to trash Netanyahu and Israel, demand a two-state solution, tell them to stop winning, and have them use the figure 100,000 dead, mostly women and children. But I've been using the Hamas number, 27,000. Well, multiply it by 4. Do you want to win or not? Yes, at all costs. At all costs. And I'm offering you, too, to go speak to Politico and tell them I've had it with this ponderous judge, the Attorney General. If he had started earlier, Trump would already be in prison and I wouldn't have these problems. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, by the time you finish listening to this message, the U.S. government will print $8,300 in new money. That's every minute. That's $276 new dollars every single second. Money that won't go to defending our nation or improving our roads. It's wiping away the value of your dollar and your savings. I'm Mark Levin, and I have warned Americans about this crisis. That's why I'm recommending to all my listeners, diversify in precious metals while you still can. And the only gold company I strongly support is Advantage Gold, a 5-star rated gold company. They can educate you with the real facts, including why gold may be the single best investment of this decade. Call them right now, folks. 800-900-8000. It's that simple. Tell them Mark Levin sent you, and they'll provide you with a 100% free Golden Shield Wealth Plan to show you exactly how to get started investing in gold right now. Don't wait until it's too late. That's 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000. Call them and remember to tell them you heard it from me, Mark Levin. Performance may vary, of course. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Oh, the New York Times, Mr. Producer, they've turned on Joe Biden. Have you seen the headlines? Have you seen the editorials? Ladies and gentlemen, the New York Times is the propaganda operation for the radical left and the Democrat Party. The radical left and the Democrat Party will destroy anybody that they believe will get into the way of victory and power. That's been the history of the New York Times. The New York Times has backed Marxists, socialists. They sat silent during the slaughter of Ukrainians in 1932 by the Soviets. They covered up the Holocaust. They helped put Castro in place. They're undermining Israel today while they promote Hamas. I mean, this is a sick, bloodthirsty corporation. So they've decided that Biden needs to go and they need to replace him because they don't want Trump. It's that simple. It's that simple. Man, we've got a lot more. We're all worked up. We'll see you in a moment. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin. You tell me we're going to get a crap load of snow here, Mr. Producer? It's
supposed to head back to Florida first thing in the morning. Please tell Mother Nature, just hang on a little bit. Let me get the hell out of here. I mean, the weather's all about me anyway, isn't it? Well, I want to salute the RNC. They do have a little bit of Joe Biden in them. You know, we've been playing mumblers for 20 years here, collecting them like people collect stamps and coins and so forth. Well, the RNC decided to put together a bunch of mumblers, Biden mumblers, a collection of Biden mumblers. So we'll salute them for doing it. And, of course, we don't expect any royalties here, do we, Mr. Producer? But we could have done this, too. The difficulty is doing it with a whole bunch of left-wing Democrats in and out of the media. That takes a lot of work. But let's take a listen, shall we? Cut one, go.
Anyway, and I don't want to, well, maybe choose my words. I was just thinking, anyway, I just, look, I mean, Putin's kleptocracy, yeah. It was in January, after being elected, the late January, early February. He said, it's not, we lead, not just, well, I won't go into it. Here's what drives the driver in the states that are affected. Here's what you can do, the drivers. For two reasons. One, it's an impact that decades are making, because inaction was there was inaction with the Department of from Charlotte, another line going from in Florida down to Tampa. The best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, the idea that and Joan Shingang, I'm going to pronounce Shanga, but there's there to be beginning this effort, and I want you to know that I want to thank you as well for but the nature, not I'll go ahead and pull a shrine. America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him look, a solid meeting with the Los Angeles and what am I doing here? From the excuse me, they also increase corporate.
It's painful, isn't it? It's sad. It's also frightening. Now, the New York Times tries to distance itself from what it created. New York Times was all for Biden up until last week. Now they see there's a problem, that their propaganda hasn't worked, that they and the rest of the Praetorian Guard and the media have been exposed. And so they realize that they got to find somebody else. If he is the nominee, they will endorse him fully. They will tell you that Trump is Hitler, when in fact they failed to cover the actual Hitler. That's what's down the road. But I want to take you to Nikki Haley. And I literally want to show you what an ignoramus she is. Opportunist, Just totally ignorant. And so is Margaret Brennan at Deface the Nation. And I'll explain this in a moment. Now listen to this. Cut 7, go.
Ambassador, you have made mental acuity a signature issue for your campaign.
Well, let's stop there. She's made mental acuity a signature issue for her campaign. What, nobody saw that Biden is an idiot? And despite their best efforts, Donald Trump is on his game. He's sharp as a tack. Their propaganda is not going to, too old people, he's only for, no. One is an imbecile. One is smart as hell. There's a difference. Go ahead.
Year, you're handing out paper copies now of a cognitive assessment. When do you plan to take it, and are you at all concerned that you might turn off some older voters?
I have no problem taking it, and what I've said is we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75.
So let me stop there. We need to have mental competency tests for anybody over 75. Now, some of you might say, that's a great idea. What's the problem with that, Mr. Producer? The Constitution doesn't provide for mental competency tests. You cannot force a presidential candidate to take a mental competency test. If he's an American citizen, or she, 35 years old or older, that's the standard. So Nikki Haley likes to throw these things around. But Margaret Brennan's an idiot. And so what Nikki Haley should be asked is, since you actually have to amend the Constitution to do this, where's your support for this? You need a super-duper majority of the House and the Senate to do it. A super-duper majority of 3/4 of the state legislatures. Or Convention of States, which, of course, they hate. So it's never going to happen. But she keeps running around talking about it. Because she knows nobody's going to ask her but me, which is why she won't come on this program. It's like cutting the debt and the deficit. I'm 100% for it. I wrote an entire book on it, Plundering the Sea. We talked about it here when nobody would talk about it, whether it was under the Bushes, whether it was under President Trump, Obama, and, of course, the genius now in the Oval Office. I can't. Then people don't want to hear about it. I don't care. So Nikki Haley has no plan on actually slashing spending either. Period. None. And there she's out there flopping around like a flounder on the beach. And she's not really challenged. So, Nikki, we ask you here on the Mark Levin Show, how exactly would you institute your competency test? Oh, well, we would just do it by statute, but the statute doesn't trump the Constitution. Oh, well, we tell people to do it. We shame them into doing it like we do with their taxes. And well, then say that. Say it. But you can't impose competency tests for anyone over the age of 75. I don't care if you do it for 50 and up. So she has an answer for everything, which is really an answer for nothing. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Pure Talk believes in American values and that free should mean exactly that, free. Switch to Pure Talk today and get a free Samsung 5G smartphone. No 4-line requirement, no activation fees, just a Samsung that's built to last with a rugged screen, quick charging battery, and top-tier data security. Qualifying plans start at just $35 a month for unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot. Pure Talk will connect you to the most dependable 5G network in America for half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. The average family saves almost $1,000 a year. So let Pure Talk's expert U.S. customer service team help you make the switch today. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and claim your eligibility for your free brand new Samsung 5G smartphone and start saving on wireless today. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk. How much time do I have, Richie? So there's Joe Biden standing next to a dictator, the King of Jordan, educated in the United States, was a fighter pilot. I don't know who he fought. It is Jordan, after all. And he's handed a script, obviously. He mimics exactly what Tony Blinken and Biden want him to say. He's trashing Israel. Talks about Israel creating 100,000 casualties. He pulled that out of his ass, like so much more. Biden cited 27,000 people killed. He didn't say it was from Hamas. He said mostly children and women. There have been reports on what a bunch of lies this is. So Biden has turned on Israel and the Jewish people in order to embrace and accommodate not all, but Muslims and Arabs who believe in river to the sea, and they say as much, like in Dearborn, Michigan, which you're not allowed to mention, and yet the imams there are clear anti-Semites. Not all of them, most of them. And nothing is said about Jordan. I want to tell you about Jordan slaughtering Palestinians. Bob Ryan, who was writing in a Israeli paper some time ago, but nonetheless, I believe he's an American. Doesn't really matter. In 1917, the Balfour Declaration announced the support of the British government to create a national Jewish homeland in their territory called Palestine. The declaration had no partition involved and was intended to solely have a place for Jews throughout the world to call home. After all, Palestine was the traditional home of Jews, and there's always been a remnant living there since they first arrived over 3,000 years ago. Yeah, that's like over 4,000 years ago. Due to lack of action on the part of the British government, the Balfour Declaration did not become a reality. So the newly formed United Nations brought up the issue of a Jewish homeland in 1946. Can you imagine doing that today? The vote to partition the land took place in 1947, which brought about the creation of Jordan. You understand? The creation of Jordan from land originally promised to the Jews in 1917. It was called Transjordan. It was Jewish land and territory, as was Judea and Samaria, which we call the West Bank, because Jordan in 1947 stole it. The West Bank was included in the partition for the Jewish state, which was taken by Jordan after Israel's War of Independence. So Jordan is a creation. Now, those who lived in Palestine prior to 1947, ready, were divided into Jews and Arabs. References to Palestinians were always about Jews living in Palestine. So when they talked about Palestinians prior to 1964 or 5, it was about Jews, not Arabs. So Muslims were always called Arabs. There was no Palestinian country created at this time or any other throughout history. The closest is the partition created as an Arab state by the UN, which is Jordan. The Arab refugees who entered Jordan shortly after the UN voted to partition Palestine, which made up those who were called Palestinians in 1970. So they claim land that isn't theirs. They give themselves that name, a nomenclature that isn't theirs. Jordan, which today is saying they need their own country and it's got to be carved out of Israel and so forth and so on. They had their own country. It was called Jordan. Jordan refusing to allow the existence of a Jewish state. It was the Arabs who declared war on Israel, which Israel defended herself and won her war of independence. Refugee camps were set up in Jordan to house the Arabs who had fled after the Arab world declared war on Israel. So these Arabs are today's Palestinians. You got it? Rather than have the quick victory and complete annihilation of the Jewish state, the Arab nations lost the war, and the Arab refugees remained in Jordan until September 1970. Well, do tell what happened. I'm getting there. It wasn't until after the creation of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, in 1964, that Palestinian was used to describe people who are called Palestinian today. They're Arabs. The Arabs are not all the same. historically. But these Arabs now are called Palestinians, and they're called Palestinians to confuse you, and they're called Palestinians for the purpose of destroying the state of Israel. Yasser Arafat had brought together numerous terrorist organizations under the banner of the PLO and moved from Kuwait to Jordan. He was born in Egypt, he was in Kuwait, and he moved to Jordan, since it was easier to carry out terrorist attacks against Israel. Over the next 6 years, from 1964 to 1970, Palestinians became a term used for a different people than had historically been attributed. It went from being a reference to Jews to a reference to people once called Arabs. The new classification meant, ready for this, 2/3 of Jordan's population had been reclassified as Palestinian. 2/3 of Jordan. Jordan's King Hussein, the father of the Karen inbred, was one of the financiers of the Palestinian Liberation Organization. He had no problem with terrorist activities being used against Israel, but it wasn't until after Jordan's devastating loss to Israel in 1967 during the Six-Day War, King Hussein altered his position on supporting terrorist attacks on Israel. The Fedayeen moved their bases to Jordan following the loss of the West Bank, which had originally been part of Israel, even according to the 1947 UN partition. They increased their terrorist attacks on Israel. They gained support throughout the Jordanian population. But by early 1970, the PLO was openly calling for the overthrow of the king himself, King Hussein's government, due to lack of clear support for them. I have to take a break. So what happened in 1970? Why isn't this taught to you? Why am I the only one telling you this? Why was the inbred of King Hussein a concoction, a complete concoction? The monarchy and Jordan. Why was he standing next to a vegetable-type president, spitting propaganda about Israel and a two-state solution, and 100,000 casualties caused by Israel? Why was he welcome to our White House today? Stay with me for the rest of the story. Pure Talk believes in American values and that free should mean exactly that, free. Switch to Pure Talk today and get a free Samsung 5G smartphone. No 4-line requirement, no activation fees, just a Samsung that's built to last with a rugged screen, quick charging battery, and top-tier data security. Qualifying plans start at just $35 a month for unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot. Pure Talk will connect you to the most dependable 5G network in America for half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. The average family saves almost $1,000 a year. So let Pure Talk's expert U.S. customer service team help you make the switch today. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and claim your eligibility for your free brand new Samsung 5G smartphone and start saving on wireless today. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk.
Mark Levin, a proud conservative. No ifs, ands, or buts. Call in at 877-381-3811.
Well, here we be. May I make a public service announcement on my own behalf, Mr. Producer? All you folks in and around the Northern Virginia area, just stay home tomorrow. Work from home. May I suggest that? Call your boss. Say, I want to work from home. We need to keep the roads empty so Mark can get to the airport. Is that selfish? I don't think so. I'm looking out for all of my fellow citizens out there. And I'm looking at these news reports. I'm thinking, how the hell can they even predict the weather or the climate, 50, 100? We've got one AccuWeather that indicates, it's never going to be colder than 39 degrees. Now, last time I checked, doesn't it have to be like 32 or under, Mr. Producer? So maybe it'll start as snow, but it won't stay as snow, so there wouldn't be accumulation. And then I look at the Weather Channel. They're hedging their bets. Mr. Producer, what were you looking at, weather.com or something? And they indicate 3 to 5 inches. So that's it. That's your global warming and your climate change. They don't know what's going to happen 5 hours from now. All right, back to our history lesson that you won't get anywhere else. So Jordan is a fake country. It's a phony country. The monarchy was installed by the British. And now the king's son, little king, He's at the White House today, trashing Netanyahu, trashing Israel, demanding that the Palestinians, so-called, have their own country. And I'm thinking, well, they do. It's your country, you little jerk. But let us continue. So they renamed themselves under Arafat, a terrorist. And this is just another Arab group, Bedouins mostly, and now they're Palestinians. Okay, but the Jews are Palestinians. No, they're the real Palestinians. And Palestine, which was the Jewish homeland, no. They're the Palestinians, and Palestine belongs to them. Oh, thank you. But then all of a sudden, the dictator king of Jordan wakes up and he says, oh, wait a minute, 2/3 of the people here now are Palestinians. You know, these other Arabs. The British didn't warn me about this, for God's sakes. And so the Arabs now who call themselves Palestinians since 1964-65, the PLO, Arafat, they say, you know what, King, you're not only a fake and a phony, you're not supporting our terrorist attacks against Israel. Therefore, we will attack you. You'll do what? We will attack you. I mean, after all, we're now 2/3 of the population. We're the Palestinian Arabs. Wow. The Palestinians represented 2/3 of the population of Jordan and did have the numbers on their side and Syrian military assistance, but not air cover. So what happened? In September 1970, the Jordanian military shelled the refugee camps. I mean, relentlessly and brutally, just was bombarding these refugee camps where the people were unarmed. This is just 53 years ago. Rather than go through the refugee camps to find the terrorists and deal with them militarily, they chose the option of genocide, indiscriminate killing of the civilians. Men, women, children, elderly, infirm died as a direct action taken by Jordan. It was slaughter on a massive scale. Because the fake king didn't want to lose his fake country, after all, and he's going after the fake Palestinians. The Jordanian military pushed every Palestinian out of Jordan, and they left tens of thousands dead. These were not just the Fedayeen, the so-called terrorists who've been actively fighting the Jordanian military, but innocent civilians of every age. Women, children, elderly were killed as if they were every bit the same as the Fedayeen terrorist fighters. They didn't knock on doors. They didn't have knock bombs. They weren't dropping messages from the sky, warning. None of that. No food, no medicine, no way out. They slaughtered them. This is the little inbred who's standing next to Biden today. Had the Arab countries never declared war on the new state of Israel and been able to accept the Jewish state as any other, there would have been no Arab refugees to begin with. And after all, they only have 25 countries, Mr. Producer, half of which are created from whole cloth. All these kings and everything, Saudi Arabia is a concoction. Jordan is a concoction. All those little fiefdoms, they're a concoction. What the Ottomans did, and later what the British did, and then the UN, is they created these countries. They drew the lines, and they would take a Bedouin tribe or something like that, and they would put them in charge of the country. Now, this is what Israel's up against. It was the Arab refugees who had created a state within the borders of Jordan, and those same Arab refugees who were financially supported by King Hussein. Israel didn't create the issues leading to Black September. They called it Black September 1970 because of the wholesale slaughter of these Arabs in these refugee camps. Just bomb them. Bomb the hell out of them. And Israel did not create the issues leading to Black September and have treated those forced out of Jordan far better than the Jordanian government ever did. Everything leading to the slaughter of the so-called Palestinians as they were being forced out of Jordan can be traced back to the actions taken by King Hussein of Jordan, the inbred's dad. It was Jordan that declared war on Israel as one of their first actions after becoming a country. And their financial support of the terrorist actions, the PLO, been taking place. They set up their bases in Jordan. King Hussein chose to tolerate terrorism as long as they were killing as many Jews as possible. And they turned on him, which is what terrorists do, or Democrats. King Hussein was largely given a pass as the direct actions he ordered his military to take. The Jordanian military was responsible for more loss of life driving the Palestinians out of Jordan than all actions of the IDF combined, other than this recent, when the same terrorists, the Palestinian terrorists, attacked them and slaughtered their people. Some of what Israel has been accused of doing without any facts to support their claims was exactly what Jordan did, was exactly what the little king's daddy did. And these are the moderate Arabs, you understand, and the moderate Palestinians, and this is why Jordan won't take back a single Palestinian, certainly not from the Gaza Strip, not one. And that's why he's the perfect patsy, the perfect lapdog, the perfect puppet for Biden to have today on stage, saying how concerned he is about what's happening in Gaza. 100,000 deaths. Such a lying piece of you-know-what. You know what he's afraid of? He's afraid of being toppled. Toppled. Because he has no legitimate right to sit on any throne whatsoever. None. He's not elected. And remember, Mr. Democracy, Joe Biden's for democracy. Well, really? Is that why he deals with Abbas? Jordan? Saudi Arabia? And the other inbreds and monarchies and dictators and bloodlusters? Is that why? Now you know the story of Jordan. Jordan's a fake country. It's got a fake monarchy. The Palestinian name was stolen from the Jews, as is the Palestinian name on the so-called territory. And now you see, rather than Biden standing with the little king of Jordan and saying, you know what? These Arabs, a.k.a. Palestinians, they had a home. It's called Jordan. They should go back there. No, you don't understand. Israel must surrender Judea and Samaria. Israel must surrender the birthplace of Judaism in Shiloh, the birthplace. Israel must surrender the burial sites of the patriarchs and the matriarchs in the Bible. Israel. And as I've said over and over again, and I heard Netanyahu say this over the weekend, it's smart. And what exactly will this new state look like? In fact, he mentioned that, didn't he, Mr. Producer, as I said on Sunday. Let's see if I can find it here. We're looking at cut number 13. John Carl, the usual low IQ, phony journalist. Cut 13, go.
Well, you can kill them as a military force, but how do you kill the idea of a resistance as long as there is occupation? At the end of this process, after this is done, after you've eliminated the military threat, doesn't there need to be a Palestinian state?
So let's stop a second. How did we eliminate the Nazi opposition after our victory? The Japanese opposition after our victory? The Italian opposition after our victory? How do we, even in our own Civil War, how do we eliminate the Confederate opposition? I mean, this is as dumbass a question by a historic illiterate as you can get. And that's Netanyahu's point. We have to hold on to this period for a period of time to denazify Gaza. No, you can't. We need a ceasefire where the leadership of Hamas gets to survive. And 4 battalions get to survive, and the Israelis just keep taking it in the neck. That's what. Here's Netanyahu. Go.
Everybody who talks about a two-state solution, well, I ask, what do you mean by that? Should the Palestinians have an army? Should they have, can they sign a military pact with Iran? Can they import rockets from North Korea and other deadly weapons? Should they continue to educate their children for terrorism and annihilation? Of course, you'd say, of course not. And the substance, I've always said, in a future peace agreement, which everybody agrees is far off, I think the Palestinians should have the powers to govern themselves, but none of the powers to threaten Israel. And the most important power that has to remain in Israel's hands is overriding security control in the area west of the Jordan. That includes Gaza. Otherwise, history has shown terrorism comes back. And we don't want terrorism to come back.
He's right. He said, look, I can't agree as the leader of the Israeli people to the Gaza Strip, which was Egyptian, by the way. Never belonged to the quote-unquote Palestinian. It was Egyptian. It was conquered by the Israelis when Egypt attacked Israel. He says, I can't just turn this over to people, not wipe out Hamas, and they can do whatever they want with it. We're not going to create a country somewhere where diplomats get together and the UN gets together and the Arab states get together and they decide what country it's going to be out of our country, our ancestral homelands. And why is this so hard to understand? Because Joe Biden needs the vote out of Dearbornistan. That's why. What did you say? I said Dearbornistan. You watch those videos and you listen to those audios, it's Dearbornistan. With imams showing allegiance not to this country, but to other countries in Islam. Not even Islam. To terrorism. Listen to it. You don't have to believe me. They still haven't put it up there on Mediaite. They still haven't put it up there on Media Matters. Go to memory. Put it up there. Let's hear. Let's hear from the imams in Dearborn. Let's hear from the imams in California. Let's look at the videos. Why won't Mediaite and Media Matters and all the other left-wing surrogate operations, the Hamas mouthpieces, why won't they do it? You know why. I want to repeat my public service announcement on the Mark Levin Show. People who live in Northern Virginia tomorrow, I don't care what the government says, your employer says, stay off the street so I can get to Reagan National Airport. That's all. I don't think that's too selfish. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Pure Talk believes in American values and that free should mean exactly that, free. Switch to Pure Talk today and get a free Samsung 5G smartphone. No 4-line requirement, no activation fees, just a Samsung that's built to last with a rugged screen, quick charging battery, and top-tier data security. Qualifying plans start at just $35 a month for unlimited talk, text, 15 gigs of data, and mobile hotspot. Pure Talk will connect you to the most dependable 5G network in America for half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile. The average family saves almost $1,000 a year. So let Pure Talk's expert U.S. customer service team help you make the switch today. Just go to puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, and claim your eligibility for your free brand new Samsung 5G smartphone and start saving on wireless today. Again, go to puretalk.com/Levin to switch to my cell phone company, Pure Talk. You know, it's funny. Not really. This book I wrote was out 6 months ago. The Democrat Party Hates America. And when I wrote it, Chapter 3, let's start with this. Chapter 2, anti-black racism and anti-Semitism. This is the party. Chapter 3, anti-white racism and anti-Semitism. And Chapter 4 really focuses hard on the Democrat Party of today. When you watch Biden now, and you listen to Blinken, and they have the King of Jordan there, whose family is responsible for intentionally slaughtering innocent people. That's not what Israel's doing. I want you to think about this, because Biden now, and I'm going to announce this. Biden is demonstrating to me what an anti-Semite he actually is. That's what he is. The things that he's saying, the things that he's doing, are the things of an anti-Semite. Mark, you call everyone an anti-Semite. No, I call an anti-Semite an anti-Semite. It's just that there's so many in the Democrat Party, it's hard to count. Isn't it, Mr. Producer?
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Convention of States. We have a big one here in Iowa. In Iowa, we think we have the resolution passed in Iowa, which would be the 20th state legislature on our way to 34. This is, to me, the most important movement in the nation, the most important thing we can do. But we have a problem, as we always do. The Republicans in the Iowa legislature, specifically in the Senate, told Convention of States, come back next year. Well, this is next year. Now, there's a state senator by the name of Jason Schultz. Schultz! Schultz! And the way the process works, you need to hold a hearing. Senator Schultz refuses to hold a hearing. Don't you love these guys who claim to support the Constitution, but they don't want hearings and transparency? Of course, Article 5 is Article 5 of the United States Constitution. Somebody might want to remind Senator Jason Schultz of this fact. But Senator Schultz, you're acting like a fascist dictator. Why won't you hold a hearing? What are you afraid of? So they have something they call a funnel date. It's like funnel cake, except it's funnel date. That's this Wednesday. That's in 36 hours. So he needs to assign to a subcommittee by tomorrow a hearing, or this will be killed in Iowa, which is what he's trying to do. They're saying, well, go to the House in Iowa. Go there first. Well, they know it's tougher in the House right now. So you want to build momentum, given the numbers in the House, then you build it in the state Senate. You hold a hearing, a subcommittee hearing. And Senator Jason Schultz has not assigned a subcommittee, and he has no intention of doing it. So I want to give you his phone number. And yes, Jason Schultz, it's me, Mark Levin here, national radio host. Look what Levin, that's right, I'm doing this because I'm committed to this. I wrote a book about it. I'm part of this movement. It's attached to my hip. Why? Because I believe in the Constitution. I believe when the framers put Article 5 in there, this is exactly the time and the place they were concerned about. We're losing our country, our republic, and our Constitution. And you're standing in the way, you jerk. Just hold a hearing. What is it with these guys like Andy Biggs, who was the state senator, the president of the Arizona Senate? He finally moves his ass to Washington, D.C., which he loves, while complaining about it. And the new state senator president in Arizona immediately pushes it through. So Jason Schultz doesn't want to hand it to even a subcommittee to have a hearing tomorrow. Here's his number. 712-269-2178. Hello. 712-269-2178. There's not another radio host in the country who does this. Because I'm not here just playing a violin. This is important to me. should be important to you, and it is to millions and millions of you. There are millions of members at Convention of States. Here, by the way, is his email address, if you prefer. Jason. Wasn't there a movie about Jason? Wasn't that like a Friday the 13th? It's not the same Jason, is it? Jason.Schultz@legis, legis.iowa.gov. Lots of dots. Jason.Schultz@legis, legis, short for legislature, legis.iowa.gov. No threats. This is important. Be civil. Be civil in every respect. Be civil in every respect. The ideas are on our side. The Constitution's on our side. There's no need not to be. You don't want to leave nasty messages anyway. You can get in trouble. Just be civil. 712-269-2178. And again, the email is jason.schultz, spelled like it sounds, at legis, legis.iowa.gov. This guy needs to assign to a subcommittee by tomorrow a hearing, or it's dead in Iowa. And that's his plan, to kill it. One guy, Jason Schultz. And we'll let you know in the next 24 to 48 hours how this plays out. Because people like this have to be defeated if they're not going to be part of the solution here. This is a very democratic process within our Republican form of government. It's a very, very important process that the framers set up. Very important. I mean, it was Mason who came up with this idea. Madison wasn't so hot on it. And then, a couple of decades later, when people were talking about nullification, which Madison opposed, and then even more, secession, it was Madison who would point to this section of the Constitution and say, look, if you have a problem, work within the Constitution, fix the Constitution. But don't blow it up. And so we have a situation today where people are blowing up the country, politically, legally, some violently. And so Article 5 is intended for a moment like this. Like this. And I don't care who Jason Schultz is. History won't remember him unless he does the right thing. But we're going to monitor this because the people of Iowa have a right. In fact, this is bigger than Iowa. The people of America have a right to defend their Constitution. And that's all this is about, defending our Constitution. We can't have one smug know-it-all who says, you know, we're not even going to have a hearing. We're not going to have a process. We're not going to have votes. What is that, Biden? What is that, third world? What do you think the framers of the Constitution would say to that? They'd say, Jason, did you read Article 5? There's two ways to amend the Constitution. And by the way, this is the most sound way, because it's 34 state legislatures making a proposal or not. It still requires 38 state legislatures or conventions to ratify. So that doesn't change. You still need 3/4 of the legislatures or 3/4 of the states through a convention. It's a very difficult process. But 34 states are needed for the convention. It's not a constitutional convention, despite all the fear-mongering. We don't do constitutional conventions here. The Supreme Court does. The Circuit Court in D.C. does. The Democrat Party does. And by that I mean they keep changing the Constitution without authority. We don't believe in that. That's not what we do. If you really want to read about this entire process, I wrote a book about that too, called The Liberty Amendments. It's right there. You can get it in paperback. I'm not hawking it. I'm trying to explain that these things have been going over and over and over again. Maybe somebody should send one to Senator Schultz. Colonel Schultz? No, Senator Schultz. In Iowa. But the people in Iowa, you're mostly conservative in Iowa. Certainly the Republicans are. You need to really focus on this, because if he doesn't call for a subcommittee hearing tomorrow, it's over. Which is ridiculous. One guy. No, we're not going to have a hearing on this. It's not about you personally. It's not about you. And I really get disgusted with people who don't trust the people within the Republican context. In other words, this isn't mobocracy at work. This is republicanism, small r republicanism at work. This is constitutionalism at work. This is the way it's supposed to be done, not done by judges or executive orders or statutes. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
You know, there's a huge special election tomorrow in New York, and it's replacing Santos. Remember him? And in the House of Representatives, the majority is so paper thin, they can't even impeach Mayorkas, who's destroying our country and has destroyed our border and destroying God knows how many lives. There's a Democrat running in that special election who pretends he's a centrist. He wants to be bipartisan. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at the House of Representatives. And when Hakeem Jeffries puts his foot down, they all march behind Hakeem Jeffries. That party is united no matter what when they need to be united. Not one Democrat voted to impeach Mayorkas. And so it's very, very important that the Republicans retain that seat. And they have a fantastic candidate in Mazi Pilip. And Mazi Pilip, if she were a Democrat, they'd be celebrating her all over the networks because her ancestry is Ethiopian, Jewish, she's black, and she's a woman. But because she's a conservative, because she's running as a Republican, because they don't want the Republicans to have a majority, a stronger majority in the House, of course, they don't support her. But we support her. I've endorsed her. Mazi Pilip is on the ballot tomorrow, and special elections are all about turnout. So if you turn out, she'll win. If you don't, she'll lose. And you'll have another loser representing you. Mazi Pilip, how are you, my friend?
Wonderful, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's a pleasure that you would take time to come on the evening before the election. How do you feel about this?
I feel very good. You know, the amount of people I have been meeting the last 7 weeks, and to see the energy, the love, the support, the care they have to this country, it's just amazing, very empowering, very, encouraging. So this is ours to win. It's all about turnout, and I'm encouraging everyone to go out and vote. As you said, if you want Hakeem Jeffrey to be the House Speaker, then we don't vote. But if you really want to have a strong majority, you have to go out to vote, because it's about saving our country, taking our country to the right direction with the common sense of government to stop the border issues. I mean, the border crisis, migrant crisis we are facing, it's impacting the quality of our life every single day, and we need to stop it. And Thomas Wazi absolutely is the wrong person for that. Since he opened the border, he created this mess.
Amen. Now, the weather could get a little sticky tomorrow, and so the good thing is Democrats are afraid of rain. Democrats tend to be afraid of snow. They kind of hide in their hovel, and so this is a perfect opportunity for Republicans, independents, and moderate and conservative Democrats to come out and take care of business. Again, special elections tend to be about turnout because the turnout tends to be lower than otherwise. It is very, very important, very, very important, like the great patriots at the founding of our country. You've got to turn out and you've got to vote. Mazi Pilip, I think people should mostly ignore the polls. I don't even know what they say, because if you turn out and vote tomorrow and we turn out in large numbers, you're the winner, right?
100%. This is ours to win because, again, the issues are with us. The crime and being soft on crime, not supporting law enforcement, keeping the border open, created these issues that we saw 2 weeks ago, illegal migrants attacking our police officers. And what else left if they are attacking our law enforcement and they don't follow the rules? That's very bad. They're very negative things, and we cannot allow this again to happen. The way to send it to by electing people who love this country. It's me. I immigrated to this country. I love this country. This country has been such a good country, and I want to make sure this country will continue to be great for my 7 children and for generations to come. And tomorrow is so important. It's so important for people to come out to vote to save our country.
Let me also mention, because on this program and throughout the country, we believe Israel is a very, very important ally, which is up against these terrorists, these Islamist terrorists, whether it's Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Muslim Brotherhood, a whole laundry list of mass murderers. The Democrat Party doesn't seem to want to fund Israel. It takes the funding of Israel and it throws it in there with 1,000 other things, some massive spending bill. They don't support a single bill just to fund Israel. They voted against it all but a handful of Democrats. Would this be another issue? Your opponent is a party man. He's a party man of the hard left. He wouldn't really vote for the avenues to fund Israel through the current process, I don't think. Do you?
He's not going to do that. He's going to support his party, and he will support the squad members and Joe Biden. He's not going to support a bill that's going to give the opportunity to send the aid to Israel. It has to be a separate bill, no condition. Israel is fighting a terrorist organization that viciously attacked civilians, innocent civilians, and killed babies, burned babies, tortured so many families, and raped. We are dealing with a terrorist organization. I do believe by supporting Israel, we're going to make Israel stronger, and that means we're going to be stronger, the country here. If we don't take out the terrorists right there, it's going to be in our front door, and then it's going to be a big issue for us. So I definitely will go to Congress, and I will support the separate bill, aid to Israel, as soon as possible.
And I'm sure the Islamists in the Democrat Party, the River to the Sea crowd, and the Marxists who join them in that, they'll be voting for your opponent because they tend to vote Democrat. Joe Biden has really turned on the state of Israel. He did it today with the king of Jordan, who wasn't elected to anything. And back to the border, I cannot see your opponent, who claims to be a moderate, I went bipartisan, he would have supported that phony bill as a fig leaf to lie to his constituents that he actually was doing something about the border, when in fact his party has opened it. We have rampant slavery, sex slavery, child slavery on that border. And he has not come out and supported the impeachment of Mayorkas, let alone Biden, correct?
Exactly, 100%. Thomas Mazi, he's a typical politician, a career politician who has been there for a long time. And he sounds moderate, he speaks nice. But at the end of the day, he is the one who created the migrant crisis. He's the one who opened the border. He's the one who really led us to this point. So we don't believe him anymore. His time is over. We need to save our country. We need to impeach Mayorkas, and we have to bring common sense government. And I'm very excited for the opportunity that the American people is giving to me. And tomorrow we're going to have that victory, and we're going to send a fresh voice, new face, a mother, a fighter who loved this country, came to this country legally, and I have a big respect to United States.
I can imagine you walking the halls of Congress and bumping into Cori Bush and AOC and Tlaib and their ilk, and them looking at you as a black woman, an immigrant, saying, you should be with us. And you standing up and telling them, no, I will never be with you. Folks, please go out and vote. Mazi Pilip. You got to do this, New York. Very, very important. The election's tomorrow. Turnout is everything. God bless you and good luck, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
All right. God bless. She's terrific. It's all up to you, folks who live in her district. Go get her.
Mark Levin, America's passionately cerebral voice. Talk with that voice now. 877-381-3811.
By the way, I have a theory on this Jason Kelce guy. I think he's overdosed on vaccine shots, Mr. Producer. Travis! Oh! Not Jason. I apologize, Jason. Jason's one of us, I think. I think. But Travis, are you sure about that? You told me Jason. I know Jason's the brother. I give up. Travis. Oh, yes. When he shows that arm of his and then winks, it's kind of weird, don't you think? Let's see here. So we have a shooter that shot into Joel Osteen's megachurch in Houston. And he and his wife are fantastic pastors. I don't know them. I've just watched them from time to time. And she shot randomly 36-year-old Genenese, I don't know, Genesse, Ivane Moreno. And as they write at NBC News, she was carrying an assault-style rifle. I don't have any idea what that means. An assault-style rifle. Neither do they. Tom Winter, Andrew Blankenstein, Donna Mendel, Eric Ortiz, Myrna Akshabagaba, and Jonathan Dienst. 1, 2, 3, 4. It took 6 reporters to write this story, Mr. Producer. But the word Palestine was on a sticker on the butt of the rifle. According to 2 senior law enforcement officials, and that's now been announced by the chief of police or one of the assistants. They wrote, a motive is not clear, but police said they believe Moreno acted alone. A dispute between Moreno and her ex-husband's family, some of whom are Jewish, may be related to the shooting. This is what I take from this. Forget about these 6 meatheads. This is a huge church. Faithful Christians go to this church. It's an evangelical church. And I've told you over and over again a couple of things. Number one, if you hate the United States, you hate Israel. If you hate Israel, you hate the United States. It's one and the same in that regard. Number two, if you're an anti-Semite, in most cases, you also hate evangelical Christians and vice versa. And this is what this demonstrates. So you're a Jew hater, whether they're members of the family you married or not. You have the Palestinian thing on the butt of your rifle, and you're shooting at an evangelical church, a mega church, and you don't give a damn who you kill or who you harm. She brought her 7-year-old son along, I guess for the watch. And unfortunately, he's in critical condition. The 2 security guards there are off-duty cops. She had an assault-style rifle, whatever that means. They confronted her at a close distance. And they never backed off. They stood tall. Well, I mean, they were crouching, but you get my point. And they could have been murdered. They could have been killed, and instead they killed her. She has a long rap record. And you know what's interesting about this one? Joe Biden didn't go to the microphone and talk about gun control, did he, Mr. Producer? And he didn't go to the microphone and talk about anti-Semites. And he didn't go to the microphone and talk about protecting evangelical Christians. Does anybody notice that, or is it just me? Anytime there's an opportunity to exploit guns and ethnicity, certain types of ethnicity, Joe Biden is Johnny on the spot. He is Joey on the spot. Nothing can stop him. Nothing gets him more motivated. But now, not a word. Nothing. Nothing. Except from me. Let's go down to Georgia, where we have this reprobate dressed up as a district attorney. His father was part of the Black Panthers, but that enhanced her resume. Black Panthers was a domestic terrorist group trying to overthrow our government, which, of course, is a white supremacist government, as everybody knows. The Hill newspaper, Georgia judge says Willis's relationship could result in disqualification from the Trump case. Now, how, you might ask? How? You don't get to pay your lover on taxpayer monies and to take trips with them and have dinner with them and all the rest of it, again, on taxpayers' dime. And without a consequence. The judge overseeing this case, he said today that she could be disqualified for her relationship with the top prosecutor in the case. He's white and appointed by Trump. He's obviously a racist. Judge Scott McAfee vowed to move ahead with an evidentiary hearing on Thursday. This guy's playing by the numbers. He's doing the right thing. He's going to weigh the accusations by the defendants about this relationship as a conflict of interest. He said, I think it's possible that the facts alleged by the defendant could result in disqualification. I think an evidentiary hearing must occur to establish the record on those core allegations. This is how a real judge operates, whatever the outcome. Not the judges in Washington, D.C., who prevent the Trump lawyers from actually going through the process of a regular appeal to the full court over a period of more than a month. When you have complicated, difficult, first impression constitutional issues, you have 6 days, and you better not appeal here. We're not going to allow it. You appeal to the Supreme Court, and if you don't appeal in 6 days, you're on trial, buddy, right there in the pit of Washington with our dear friend Chudnik, the leftist lawyer. Oh yeah, and Smith, the rogue prosecutor, and a perfect jury of your peers. Well, they're really a jury of Biden's peers, but it doesn't matter. That's Washington, D.C. and the judiciary, a Potemkin judicial system. The effort to seek Willis's disqualification began after Mike Roman, a Trump 2020 campaign operative. Well, it sounds like Willis is a 2024 Biden operative. First brought the relationship to light last month. Trump and other co-defendants later joined efforts. On Monday, the judge said he would defer decisions on whether Roman can subpoena Willis, Wade, and other district attorneys. Wouldn't that be great? So now they can get questioned. And I assume they'll waive attorney-client privilege like they did to Trump, but under the crime-fraud exception. Why not? We got 2 declarations in 2 different courts, both sworn. Both filed with the court that say something completely different, said the lawyer defending the reprobate. And, of course, they'll continue to throw stuff against the wall and hope something sticks. But it sounds like Fanny. Well, you're not allowed to use your fanny while you're in office, Mr. Producer. Did you know this? Yes, it's true. Especially in the taxpayer dime. What about the communications they had with the White House? There were 2 in-person meetings, I think with her lover. Also 2 communications by, text or some documentary type communications. This judge was going to hold a hearing en banc, meaning behind closed doors. I wonder whatever came of that or if that ever took place. Because to me, that's very, very important. You can see the Biden regime is behind this case in Georgia. The Biden regime is behind the January 6th case. The Biden regime is behind the document. I love the media. We're not talking about a lot of documents with Biden. And then one of these hack Democrat senators says, and Biden wasn't charged either. A-hole. Biden committed scores of felonies under the Espionage Act for half a century. In every position he ever held, and then some. As a senator, as a vice president, as a private citizen. He didn't have any constitutional protection as a president does. None. And he was in Washington. He's a creature of Washington. That's all he knows. And he knew the classification rules. He stole the documents out of the SCIF at the Senate. And then he gets caught and he says, the difference is I'm cooperating. Excuse me? In 2017, he told his ghostwriter, I have classified stuff in my basement. Remember that part, Mr. Producer? And what else did he say? He's talking to about his notes that he has. He took a copy of his notes and made a notebook of it. He says, they don't know I still have this. It's 2017. You still have what? I still have this. Top secret classified information. Trump never did any of that. Trump dared to stand up to the Department of Justice, so they went after him. But this guy, he owns the Department of Justice. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
There's a radical judicial nominee by the name, and you haven't heard of this, by the name of Adel Manji. It's a he. And because of his faith and his ethnicity, Joe Biden nominated him. And because he's an out-of-the-closet anti-Semite, Joe Biden nominated him. This is why I say Joe Biden has revealed himself to be exactly what I said he is. So listen to the Judicial Crisis Network, a fantastic group, an ad that they're running in Montana and Pennsylvania. Why? Because 2 Democrats hold those seats, Casey and Tesla, or whatever that clown's name is, who need to be defeated. Cut 16, go.
President Biden wants to remake the courts with the most extreme judges he can find. But anti-Semite Adel Manji might be the worst of all. Manji served on the advisory board of an extremist organization that teaches students to hate Israel, to hate America, and to support global terrorism. Manji's organization blamed America for the September 11th terror attacks and has hosted speakers with terrorist connections, including a convicted terrorist. Manji's organization even blamed Israel for the Hamas terror attack on October 7th. When Manji was given opportunities to condemn these hateful views, he refused to do so. Tell Bob Casey to vote no on giving anti-Semite Adel Manji a lifetime position in our courts.
First of all, Judicial Crisis Network, as you know, is not a Jewish organization. It is a constitutionalist organization that is a watchdog on the courts and judicial nominees. It's a fantastic group. That's number one. Number two, ask yourselves, why would Biden nominate somebody like this? Ask yourself a third question. Why would Biden today stand next to the King of Jordan, the inbred son of a father who was anointed as the king by the British, a family that has the blood of dead Arabs, a.k.a. Palestinians, on their hands from a little over 50 years ago? He stands next to this man whose family slaughtered in genocidal fashion with bombs, jet fighters, innocent Arabs in refugee camps by the thousands. It's called Black September 1970. You never heard of it. And there's Biden standing next to him, lecturing the Israelis. And there's the little king whose family slaughtered innocent citizens, targeted them by the thousands, lecturing the Israelis and the Jews. I want you to think about what's going on. The Biden administration has moved full Dearborn, Michigan. It's all he cares about. That's ground zero. That's right. Dearbornistan. We salute all you heroes out there. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. God bless.